they like make them say like celebrities who would never in their life go on the show, and they're just like Miley Cyrus, it's Brad Pitt, and then it's just like it was legit. One of those kids from the Brady Bunch show. We got you. Yeah. Good for you guys. The Masters. Patriots minus 21 yesterday. And then Stidham throws a pick six. Well, I was just happy because all the Warriors fans were like, Stidham's the future. Oh, I didn't know. Because like that in the freestyle. I don't think it's. They said it was a chest contusion. I thought it was rib response. I think it was. I thought it was his ankle.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's press conference. The Citadel is coming off a 22-13 victory over Charleston Southern here Saturday night. We'll open up Southern Conference play this weekend on the road at Sanford at 3 o'clock. Here to talk about the Bulldogs, head coach Brent Thompson.
Thank you, John. Number one is I thought the atmosphere here was electric. It was a great environment. The core was really into the game, and when you have a rivalry game like that, an in-city game, it was everything that you expected it to be out there. We had a great fourth quarter environment. I thought the CSU crowd was a good crowd out there as well, and everything that was good for football in the Low Country. It was a good football game. It was a typical rivalry game, a back-and-forth game, dominated mostly by defenses. I thought our defense finally came through and did a wonderful job at the end of the game in being able to close the game, which was outstanding. What we've been looking for the last 3 or 4 weeks, they got done. What they did on the fourth down was just a great, outstanding effort by all parties, including all tackles. Or all 3 tackles down there with the incomplete passes, the fourth play. So that was a good way to end the football game. It was a back-and-forth game all day long. We thought we had it a little bit in hand, and then unfortunately gave up a couple of quick touchdowns there, or a quick touchdown there on a scramble. But other than that, offensively, we controlled the clock, we controlled the ball. We just didn't put the ball in the end zone enough. I thought we could have been better there. Left a little bit of offense out there that we should have had, could have had. But other than that, I thought it was a well-played football game, both sides, and look forward to playing that game again next year. Going to next week is we're on the road heading to Birmingham. It'll be another good first in-conference test for us against a very good Sanford team that I think has found themselves over the last 2 weeks. Played a really good game last week, scored a lot of points, found their quarterback. The quarterback is a playmaker in all regards. You have to defend every part of the field, which is going to be difficult. So our defense has their work cut out for them. Offensively, we've got to do what we do. We've got to control the clock, do what we did to win the Georgia Tech game, and that's being able to maintain possession of the football and score points and put the ball in the end zone more than we did last week. So I'm looking forward to the game, looking forward to the travel trip. I'm looking forward to getting back in conference with them. And really coming off of the Georgia Tech win, I was a little bit nervous about the way that we would handle CSU coming in, but I thought it was probably a good game to have at that moment in our schedule, being it was a rivalry game, and I knew our guys would play up for that game. Questions?
Coach, what has sort of been the morale since the first couple of games? And just obviously very different here the last couple of weeks. What has it been like with just the guys?
We haven't changed. We believed in what we were doing. We didn't change a thing that we did in practice because we had played 2 very close games. We just didn't finish the games the way that we should have, whether it was get an extra first down or score a little bit or stop them from scoring. We just knew that we had to do the little things and continue to do the little things the correct way, and we would be a team that would eventually break through like we did the last 2 weeks.
Coach, you touched on it. Your defense kind of let you guys down those first 2 weeks, have come up clutch in the last 2 weeks. What's their confidence level at, and what's the challenge in going against a team like Sanford?
Well, here's what I knew about the defense, being that it was a new defense, is it's certainly capable of great things. And it's certainly capable of really even better things to come. All we had to do was just sit and wait for those guys to get better, wait for them to learn the system, because it's a great system. And I know that that system's going to work here, and I trust Coach Grantham and his staff. They've done a wonderful job of game planning in the last 2 weeks, and I thought they did a good job the first couple of weeks too. We just needed one more stop, and we couldn't get it.
Coach, how's Brandon looking right now?
Brandon's looking good. Practiced yesterday. We probably could have had him in emergency use the other day, but opted not to use him and went with Murdoch, and Brian did a fabulous job.
So what is Brian's role like right now? Is he kind of preparing to be in the emergency role?
We will prepare them both to start, and by the end of the week we'll have a pretty good idea of who's going to be the starter. Obviously we're going to try to get Brandon a little bit more of the 1 reps, so that way he's good to go, because he missed most of the week last week. Was only around to get about Thursday and Friday reps.
Coach, if Brandon can't go, are you comfortable with Murdaugh and Schickel, or do you need to have a third guy in the mix?
No, we were fully prepared to have Schickel go in. Schickel is a capable triple option quarterback out of high school. Really, we think that he's going to be the next guy eventually once Brandon graduates and moves on with his master's degree. Evans should be the guy. Evans a guy that's done a great job. And we've also got a third quarterback that we've been repping and working, but it's hard to get 3 quarterbacks ready. You're really only trying to get 2 ready at one time. So I do think that, in a pinch, the third quarterback would be Cooper if we needed to.
Sanford's defense has a lot of points. How do you where can you expose them, so say, with your offense?
Well, the number one thing that we always have to do with anybody is just make them play option and assignment football. Is we've got to be able to make sure that they're tackling the dive. I think we've done a pretty good job over the last couple of weeks, and last week we had to save ourselves a little bit with the fullback just because we didn't want to do too much operationally with the triple option. But with having Brandon back, I think we're going to have to play a little bit more in the option game than we did the last couple of times. So make them play a little bit more assignment sound football than we have the last couple of weeks.
What is it?
How does Sanford's quarterback compare with Towson and Elon's guys, and what do you need to do better against Sanford's quarterback?
Probably more related to Flacco. He's more of a mobile quarterback, one that if it's not there or he doesn't feel comfortable throwing it, he's going to tuck it and run it. Very similar to the young man from CSU last week that really exposed you a little bit. If you miss a tackle on him and you run off by all the wide receivers out there, I think that you can be in a little bit of trouble. He's very dynamic, very explosive, and if we don't watch out, you can let him loose on a couple of plays.
Coach, how important is Riley Webb been to this team? Feels like whoever the quarterback is, he just comes up in the clutch moments. Can you just talk about it?
We got to try to find ways every week to try to get him the football and try to do different things with him. And we're such a run-oriented team that it's difficult when you do have some pretty good wide receivers. The good thing is we've been able to find ways to get him open. The one thing that you don't realize about Raleigh, if you're not watching closely, is he's a tremendous blocker. And really his blocking skills and his blocking ability is really what helps us not only move the football in the run game, but also be able to get him open in the play-action game. And usually if you can catch somebody flat-footed, he's a guy that can run by you if you don't watch out.
Coach, the value of momentum in college football cannot be understated. Do you feel like now 2 wins in a row, the team is clicking even more? You said you haven't changed, the personality stayed the same, but just the effect of winning.
Sure. Momentum, even in the football game, it goes both ways there. If you've got it, we had it in the third quarter, lost it a little bit in the fourth quarter. The defense got us back for us in the fourth quarter. But even in a football game, momentum is huge. Coming out of a game is you want to try to keep the momentum, but you want to also stay grounded. And that was the number one thing against coming out of the Georgia Tech game is when you're going against CSU, is you've got to watch out. You don't either overlook them because you just beat Georgia Tech. You got to watch out because that is a good CSU team. Like I said here last week, it's a better team than their record shows. They're very talented and they've got ways, and they're going to win some football games down the line.
Brent, how do you feel about where your team is heading into conference play? Do you feel like their best ball is still ahead of them, or what do you think?
I do think, especially on defense, I think we're getting better on defense, which was what I was looking forward to in the first 4 games being out of conference as opposed to last year. Offensively, we had to figure out our identity, and then we also had to make a little bit of a change at quarterback. Getting back to what we do at quarterback will certainly help us out. I think our offensive line has progressed. We've really only started 1 new starter in there, and that's Jonathan Toole. Everybody else has kind of been somewhat of a player in there. Denzel Wright was injured last spring, but he's come back, and he's played in some capacity last year for us. So the offensive line has gelled and progressed very nicely. The defensive line has done a good job when you've got Joe and Aaron in there. I think they're doing a good job of penetrating the backfield. So I think we're moving in the right direction as long as we can stay healthy throughout conference play. Because our bye week is a little bit late this year, I think we'll be able to make some movement in that conference.
What do you think of the league so far? Wofford got off to a slow start. VMI won a conference game, right?
Yeah, so
it's a
VMI
good
beats
process.
ETSU. It is. Certain things can happen at any single week here. But obviously, I think Furman's playing extremely well. We had a chance to watch them against CSU. Very explosive on offense. So right now they're obviously at the top of the conference. But as I told the players last night, is we've got an opportunity to run through them all at this point and see what happens at the end of the day. But we're going to take one at a time.
Dante and Remus have really flourished here in the last couple of weeks. How comforting is it for you to have 2 dependable A-backs like that?
Really, I've got about 4 or 5, which is really nice. For the first time, you're able to have guys in there that you're not worried about blocking. That was the number one thing with Remus is he's improved. Another one that's improved without the ball in his hand. Gives you a little bit of hey, if something's not there, he'll be able to make hay when he does have the ball in his hand. But the number one improvement that he's done from the spring to now is just blocking. And it's part of the culture with that group. It's part of the culture of you've got to block from one another in this offense. And that's different than any other offense that Remus has ever played in before. And he's bought into it, and I think he's done a good job with it. And it's comforting to see that, and he's accepted it, and he's done a great job with it. Having Dante in there, he's always been the guy that he's a good pass receiver, he's a good blocker, and he's a good guy with the ball in his hand. So always a guy that can really do a good job, no matter what position or whatever we ask him to do in there. But we've also got guys like Nakim, and then you saw Sam Llewellyn play a little bit last week, which was nice.
For you young players who are experiencing conference play for the first time, what's the best piece of advice you can give, especially not only beginning this second part of the season, but then going on the road to begin it too?
Well, take them one at a time. That was all we did in 2016 when we had a pretty good year that year, is take them one at a time and just worry about this one as it comes. They're all going to be good, but I think we've got a chance in all these games.
Any other questions? Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.